employment, contract, and other litigation members. Ted received his Master's of Laws degree with highest honors from the George Washington University Law School, his Juris Doctorate from Southwestern University School of Law, and his Bachelor's of Science in Business Administration from Christopher Newport University. Please welcome Ted Phlegar.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Guys, thank you for having me. This is going to be probably more informal because we've actually had a chance to talk some, and I visited with each one of you before getting started. But my talk today is Organized Labor's Agenda, what you might not know and why it matters. But a little bit of background on the Workforce Freedom Initiative. The original reason that WFI was created was to oppose a piece of legislation called card check. Card check, also known as the Employee Free Choice Act. And since that has evolved from the 111th Congress now under the 112th, it did not become law, which I'm assuming that now most people actually know what card check or what FK is. Back when I started doing this, people didn't. However, the AFL-CIO had a list of things they would like to see changes in labor law. And when the transition came into power in 2008 through the new administration, a lot of those items have been trickled or translated into things that our regulatory agencies are now trying to put into place. Executive orders that Barack Obama has put are trickling down. The whole reason and the whole platform that really underlies what I'm talking on today is that I'm a huge proponent of fairness. I'm a huge proponent of people being able to use their freedom of speech, speak out, but to do that they need to be educated. They need to understand what's going on. Now I know that we've got protesters from all of our local unions, or your local unions out in front. We've got visitors that are also affiliated with them in the room today. And actually I went down and met them and I thought, that's great. I told them, thank you for being here. You're exercising your right to speak out on issues that clearly are relevant, clearly are important. Employers and business should also be able to speak out on those same issues. I'm not anti-union, and I tell people in every speech I give, the chamber is not anti-union. A few weeks ago, 4, 5, 6 weeks ago, I don't remember the exact date, Richard Trumka, who's the president of the AFL-CIO, and Tom Donahue, who is our CEO and president, were both on Capitol Hill together, meeting with Congress over infrastructure. And there are other things where the chamber, organized labor, we actually agree. However, there are some policies we absolutely disagree. Everybody has a right to be heard on it. I think that the system works by people hearing on it. One of the reasons the initiative goes around and does lectures and discussions like this is to bring folks up to speed on what regulations are pending, how they can get involved, and encourage people to absolutely get involved. At the end of this discussion, we'll go through some of the ways you can get involved. Contacting your congresspeople, contacting your senators, putting comments in, listening to your local chambers. If there's regulations coming down, you may not have heard about them and you may hear about them today, you may already be aware of them. But the way the process works with administrative agencies, and why we're saying labor's agenda, because what the AFL-CIO was trying to push through executive orders and through Congress, and since the 2010 elections, where the House of Representatives changed power and the Democratic majority in the Senate weakened, some of these things will not get through Congress. But many of the regulatory agencies, the National Labor Relations Board, the Department of Labor, the National Mediation Board, they're going forward carrying out the administration's agenda, and a lot of that agenda also comes from organized labor saying, this is what we want to see. We worked hard to get you into power. And that's a political reality of what's going on. But let me give you a little bit of background on why it is such a relevant topic now. As further background on myself, and I've shared with some of you as well, when I was working my way through college, I was a steelworker. So it was interesting seeing the steelworkers outside. And if a group of workers wants to organize, they should have that right to do it. And they should have that right to have a free and clear vote without anyone over-influencing it, peer pressure, coercion, undue influence. But if they also want not to be unionized, that should be a clear, unfettered vote. And if they are unionized at a workplace and they want to decertify, that should be a clear vote as well. That's unfettered, uninfluenced. Again, you'll find in the theme of my remarks constantly saying, I believe in fairness. And the reason I'm against many of the policies, some of them are good policies. Some of them are good regulations. Of the 90 regulations the Department of Labor is pushing as of spring 2010 that they listed, some of them will hurt businesses' ability to be competitive and to grow and expand. And I'll give you examples and we'll discuss it. But things like, I've heard from business people that they say they hover around 48, 49 people in their company. And yes, they're turning away business because they'd love to go to 51, 52 people, but that will trigger certain regulations in the healthcare bill. Or it may trigger others if you're 24 members, employees, and all of a sudden you hit 25 or 15, depending on the regulation. Why am I here? Because you need to know what's going on in Washington and you need to be involved. You need to express your opinion, you need to provide input, and let those that are making laws, rules, and regulations understand from everybody. Why is labor so involved in it? Well, a background. In the 1950s, about a third of our workforce in this nation was unionized. As of 2010, that's dropped to less than 12%. Of that number, most of them, for the first time in history, are actual government workers. They're public sector workers. It's always been more private sector than public sector because there's more private sector people out there. This also comes into play because as a recruiting tool to try and refill the ranks of the shrinking ranks, organized labor has found a niche in government workers. But there's a ceiling over how many people can be recruited, how many people can be organized, because there's only so many government workers. So they're refocusing on the private sector. SEIU claims to be the fastest growing union in the nation, and under Andy Stern went from something like 1.6 million to claiming to have over 2 million members. And other unions are also refocusing their organizing efforts. Another crisis or another challenge facing unions is that very often through multi-employer pension plans that are run by unions and representatives of management, of employers, but they are there for the pension for union members. Many of the plans in this country have gone way down in their fiscal health. I tracked this data from 96 to 2009 of some of the national funds, some locals have their own funds. The trend is clear. It used to be that for every 4 people working in industry, they were supporting one person that was retired or a family beneficiary that was receiving pension benefits. Today that ratio is more like 1.5 to 1. Used to be in the 80s, I think 90% of, or 95% of the funds were fully funded. They had $1 in assets for every $1 in obligation. This tracks their financial health, and today that number's dropped drastically. And with the lowering membership and lowering unionization numbers in our country, less and less employers are actually unionized. What happens to organized labor's business model? The more people they have and the more employers they have, the more contributions being made to pension funds, the more individuals they have in ranks, the more employers they have supporting the funds. This is a motivation why we're seeing a resurgence of organized labor as to why they are very much trying to refill their ranks to where they were in the 50s. Union political activity. Organized labor and the AFL-CIO and Change to Win, they have a political arm. It's not going away, it's vibrant, it's busy. In 2008, a presidential year, $450 million was spent on politics. In 2010, labor spent more than $200. AFSCME alone, the Association of Federal, State, and County Municipal Employees, a government union, spent $85 million. And then came out in the paper with the statement, yes, we are the big dog. The political activity of organized labor is not going away. Again, they're exercising their right to free speech too, but the money is coming from the ranks of members, either through dues or through contributions, more individuals that are in union ranks, more individuals to support the political activities. So that's why the motivation was there. And when the administration changed in 2008, and there was a list of things going forward in a wish list, basically it comes down to a couple of simple things. By the way, I put this slide up because this is what's happening in 2012, which is a president.